magic for a good blaster at your side.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
And welcome back to the show.
Hey, everybody.
How's it been going, Michael, since last time we recorded?
Well, I, ate a little bit.
It's probably good.
A few meals here and there.
Just
doctor's orders.
Scrounged for scraps.
Scraps.
Yeah.
Little scraps that people left me.
Snuffled for truffles.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of snuffling lately. Unrelated to truffles.
Oh, interesting.
But we'll talk about that another time. It's time to talk about Star Wars.
Yes, Star Wars. So the Star Wars universe has had
zero
things happening in it
that we're aware of.
I mean, we could have read Life Debt.
So, okay, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about how we don't know what's happening, but there could be other things in the world of Star Wars that we're not privy to.
So you're saying we don't
Right?
work at Lucasfilm, therefore we don't know what's happening.
No, I mean, other people will get leaks and things, and we're just over here
Squeeps and peeps.
yeah, with no squeeps and no peeps.
We don't have insiders.
Well,
Not those kind.
no.
Yeah. No one's telling us anything.
We're not here to talk about those.
We're not here to talk about that inside. We're here to talk about the three things we do know.
What's going on with you, Tyler? What's new with you?
Nothing.
All right.
I'm going on a vacation soon, and that will be fun.
Yes.
So
And I won't be there.
buckle up for me going on vacation.
Why do I have to buckle up for your vacation?
I want you to be safe while I'm gone.
Oh, I'm not allowed to get into anything
No.
while you're out?
Nope.
Oh, okay. We should clarify that I am locked in a closet here after every episode.
We've got a really big dog crate,
Yeah.
if you will. And
We call it a closet
Well,
because it makes it sound better.
makes it sound like people.
It really is just kind of a cat crate.
Just a little
I just have to crawl in
tiny
there.
one.
Actually, I have to put my knees up to my chest, and you just kind of push me in there.
There's 5 cat crates. I put one on each arm, one on each leg, and one on your head, and you just lay on the floor and you don't move for 2 weeks.
Yes.
It's not really convenient
funny
to my
is,
life, but
Now that I think about it, there's really nothing keeping me there.
shit. Anyways,
figured
Star
it
Wars,
out.
Michael, huh?
Oh,
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah. So
So
again,
stuff.
nothing's happened. I guess nothing really episode 8 related, other than the fact that Lupita Nyong'o, I don't know how to pronounce her last name
That's good
correctly, but I figure that's close.
Mm-hmm.
She supposedly has not shot her scenes for episode 8 yet.
Yeah, I was reading that the other day, which is odd because
Since they're editing it and they haven't shot her scenes yet.
Yeah, that, and wasn't there in the behind the scenes footage that we got recently? Didn't it show her in the motion capture suit? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I mean, they could have cut any B-roll together for that, I'm sure.
You think that was from Force Awakens?
Could have been.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
someone on
I
Twitter
guess
had
so.
this idea, which I thought was brilliant. His name is Jordan Mason. He does art for the cards for the Star Wars Card Trader app.
Sweet.
And he's
Alright.
also the editor of Cinelinks. But his idea was, what if they're waiting to film her Maz's scenes until like January, so that they can do Han Solo and Episode 8 all at the same time if she's going to be in the Solo film.
Huh.
So if she has this
You really
long
think
running,
she would be in the
if
Solo
she has
film?
this long running relationship with Solo and Chewbacca, we don't know how long that's been.
Yeah.
Obviously, pre the Star Wars films that we know, right?
Right.
So I don't know how. I mean, he's in his upper teens in the Solo film, or low 20s.
Do we know when that's going to take place?
No.
Yet? We don't?
I mean, we know the actor that's playing him, so we know he's not an old person.
Alden.
So he looks like he could play somebody
Bushel
in his
Basket. I don't know
mid
what his
20s, lower 20s. How? There's probably nothing in canon to say, but how old was Han in A New Hope?
Like mid-20s, wasn't he? He was older than Luke.
He was older than Luke and Leia. Because Luke was like
older
what,
than Leia too?
I would think so, because Luke was what, like 19, right? 18, 19?
Yeah. And Leia was in her late
Leia was maybe
20s?
like 20, 21, right?
Leia?
She wasn't that old, was she? I thought she was early 20s.
I don't know. Do we have anything that?
Or her and Han are probably closer in age, but I would think he would be older than her.
Yeah, or this around her
So,
age anyway.
Mid upper
30s?
20s, maybe 30, like at
Early 30s.
max. So what?
He can't
He's
be that
going to
old,
be
really?
what? Low 20s
Maybe.
then. In the Solo film, it'll be like low 20s.
That would make sense. Yeah.
So
So this
10, 15 years before A New Hope.
yeah, it would have to be between Clone Wars and A New Hope, right?
Well, I would assume.
Not before Clone Wars.
No, probably
You don't
not.
think so?
Since Chewbacca was on Kashyyyk at that time,
Yeah.
I doubt he was involved with. I mean,
We talked about this, right? Whether or not Han was going to get his whole
well, if they're going to keep his whole storyline of the Empire
with-
and all that.
with
Now,
rescuing Chewbacca or any of that junk.
I figure. So, I mean, obviously, it's like the Han.
Does Life Debt
It's
talk
like the
about any of that?
Han's-
I
like
would know
the
because
backstory. No,
I don't know if you know,
not
but
that
I've-
I've gotten that far.
I haven't read Life Debt yet. I don't know if you
I don't think
are
you've
aware
even,
of
like,
that.
seen
but
it. You've had Life Debt read to you.
I've seen the cover.
I read a chapter of Life Debt to you when we were testing
Against
some
my
new-
will.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we were testing equipment. I just decided to read a chapter so that we could EQ my mic,
we were testing
and
our
it was
equipment.
wonderful. Well, you can't
Hey,
test it
your
alone.
words.
So-
Okay.
So right, the Han Solo film, I figure, obviously it's like it's obviously backstory, but I figured the movie won't like open with him already knowing Chewbacca or having him with him, right?
No, I doubt it.
That will be
No.
something that will
It'd be such a
that will
missed
happen.
opportunity.
That will happen through the film, and by
Yeah.
the end, they will be all buddy.
Yeah.
And I assume it's still a life debt, or is it just buddy? Do they even keep the life debt thing?
Well, a Life Debt has to happen at some point, right?
Is it ever mentioned in anything that's now canon that he is in a life that he has a life debt with Han?
Well, there's a book called Life Debt
That
that's about Han rescuing Chewie. So, I would think that kind of confirms it.
What if it's the other way around and Han has a life debt to Chewie this whole time, and it's just they play it up the other way, just so that Han can feel better about himself? Chewie's just like, just let him. He thinks that I owe him one, and just don't even. Just let him go. I could snap him if I wanted to. Just.
And really, Han owes it to Chewie this whole time?
Yeah. The only reason Chewie's still around is because he needs something from Han.
What does he need from Han? What does Chewbacca need from Han? I don't know.
All he gets is
grooming
trouble.
care. I don't know.
Does he even get room? I think he's got like a hollow chest couch.
I said grooming, but
Oh, I thought you said room and care.
room and care.
No, like room and board. He's just got grooming care.
Grooming care. That's a
So
thing, right?
Han just grooms him.
Does he?
Night they put on their jammies and he braids his hair and they talk about space boys.
As we know from the holiday special, it is possible to have braided Wookiee hair, right?
It's possible to have lots of scary Wookiee things in general, or just an entire film with Wookiees talking with no subtitles, because that makes sense to no one ever.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's messed up.
What were we talking about?
Lupita not filming
Oh, right.
her scenes yet for episode 8. So if they're waiting to film her scenes and just do 8 and Han and the Solo film all at once, just to
Yeah.
get everything in one whatever session.
Right.
I mean, I don't think Lucasfilm is concerned about like pinching pennies on when they can film things with their actor, unless the actor has other engagements. So I doubt there's like, oh, let's just do it all at once. We'll save money. It's their studio.
I don't think they would do
studio.
that, right?
I don't, unless there's some weird constraint with Lupita.
Who was this that confirmed it? It was Lupita that said this, right?
Yeah, that they haven't
Okay.
filmed anything yet. Yeah, she said I
Yeah.
hadn't filmed anything yet for 8. So I mean, it may be that she's just not in 8 at all.
Yeah, do you think they cut Maz out of that?
Because at the end when they were all waving bye,
Why would she not know that, though?
because at the end when like Han, or not with Han because he's dead, when Chewie and Rey and R2 all leave, like Maz is standing there like waving bye too, right? At the end in the big Grease like goodbye scene. Was she not there?
No.
Am I thinking of somebody else? I should go back and watch the film
Probably
that
should.
we talk about,
But now
bi-weekly.
you're making me second guess myself now. I'm
right?
trying to remember.
the same scene that's at the
I know
end of
the scene,
Grease,
yes.
and everyone's waving goodbye to the flying car, except for this case is the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember.
I haven't done it, and I should, but I want to put the music from Grease that's at the end when the car flies away to that scene, and just make a GIF with the music, and that would make me super happy.
It'd probably be a good time to mention that I have not seen Grease all the way through, ever.
Oh.
And I will not. I refuse to, because it is one of the worst movies next to The Princess Bride ever made. I will.
Princess Bride is not as good as people make it out to be, but it is really funny. It's not funny when everyone you know says it's the most hilarious thing ever, and the first time you get to watch it is with all of them quoting it and yelling it out loud.
Thankfully, I did not do that, because that would probably make me kill somebody.
It's a very funny film, but it's not the best film. It's not the funniest film.
No, it's not the best film.
Well, obviously, Star Wars is.
It's not funny either.
It's pretty funny.
It's not that funny.
There's funny stuff.
I disagree.
It's good. No. And Grease is really good, except for the drive-in scene.
I'm not going to explain why I disagree.
Ever.
But
well, my wife hasn't seen Grease either, and I've seen it like 6 times. So I had an older sister, and
well, if you just talk about Grease, just explain Grease to me. Why should I watch Grease?
All right, so Danny and crap, what's the main chick's name? The chick who's Australian banged on Summer Vacation.
Okay, who's Danny?
That's
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard?
Is Ron Howard in Grease?
No, he's not.
Well, what am I thinking of?
He's not in Grease. Are you thinking of American Graffiti?
I think so.
Okay.
Isn't it the same thing? It's the same thing, right?
No,
it's basically the same.
One
movie.
is a musical.
Yeah, and the other one is
not a musical.
Oh.
American Graffiti is a George
it's set
Lucas
in the
film.
same time, isn't it?
Sure. Olden times.
So basically the same movie.
Yeah, so like Grease and Back to the Future. That's the same thing.
It's the same time. No, it's not the same time.
They were just happening in, neighboring counties. One county they're going back to the future, and the other county they're
could they have gone back
singing.
to the Grease movie? They
Not
probably
if it was
could
at
have,
the same.
right?
Well,
was it the same?
I guess he went back to the Grease period.
He went back to the 50s or 60s. Right?
50s and 60s.
Shut up! I'm just trying to think of what time it was.
Grease time.
It's Grease time.
Grease time.
Hey, baby.
American Graffiti
time.
was a Lucasfilm,
Get over
which
here,
so
baby.
is Star Wars. Back on track.
I want
I
to
did
talk
it.
about Grease.
I brought us around.
I want to talk about
You
Grease.
should
and
watch
why
Grease.
I won't see
It's
it.
ridiculous and it's great, and I love it. So Lupita didn't film for 8 yet. We don't know if she'll be in 8. There's a lot of stuff I want to cover in 8, and Maz's character is not one of them.
I kind of want to know more about her relationship with Han. But
I
if we're gonna get
but
that
I don't
in,
feel that needs to be part of 8.
Well, yeah, if we're gonna get that in the young Han Solo movie, then
That would be the
maybe
place
that's
to
fine.
put it, like their introduction and their like how the relationship formed. That'd be great. I don't think. I mean, obviously she might have a cameo or just like be in a scene or two with like Leia or something in 8, but she's not.
I kind of want to know more about her relationship with the Force.
Yes.
Because it seems like, and we've talked about this before, she is Force sensitive. So I would want to know.
Yes, and I mean they cut scenes supposedly that were her using like literally using the Force of like bringing down the ceiling.
We've also talked about this. I don't know if that's canon or not.
Well, yes, obviously,
but she is definitely Force sensitive, so I could see how maybe that could happen.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Obviously her whole like livelihood was destroyed.
Yes.
And I'm assuming she would probably be hanging out with Leia and whoever now, the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see her being in a couple things, but she's not integral to anything that I can think of.
I don't think so.
Not really important to the story. I mean, unless there's like some side thing with her and Chewie.
Or again, there's some kind of connection to the Force that could help Luke or something like that. It seemed like she might have had a relationship. Well, had some kind of connection to Luke.
Well, I mean, she had the lightsaber, and that's a story for another time. Is basically what she said.
Yeah.
So there's still that story to explain. So maybe she'll be in 8 in the explanation of the lightsaber story.
Luke is going to want to know where it came from. You would think that she would be there to explain that, or would explain it to somebody.
Maybe.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's
Because
necessary.
Rey is gonna have to say, "Oh, I got this from
I
Maz."
found it. Yeah, I mean,
right?
I would assume, but again, I want to know the story of how Maz has the lightsaber and what happened to the lightsaber and
Or
how
maybe
Maz
Luke
is
doesn't.
involved.
Maybe Luke doesn't care at this point. You
I
think
mean-
he would even care about where she got it and how it's still around?
I think he probably. I mean, maybe, and obviously we all care. Like we want that story, but I don't think it's.
do. But
I don't think it's important
Does
to
Luke
8.
care?
I don't think it's important to 8 for that to happen in 8.
No. I agree with that.
That
But I still wanna know
story
the
will
story.
exist somewhere, but it won't be in 8. I don't think.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Comic or a book or something?
A comic, a book, or.
I could see Maz having her own comic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's been a Lando comic. There's been a Han comic. There's been. I mean, Kanan has a running comic now.
Yeah.
Which is supposedly pretty good, but
Really?
I just don't care about him. So I could see her having like a 5-issue, like one-off, like Leia, Chewie, Lando. They all had.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. But again, I don't think they would use a 5-issue thing for Maz to explain the lightsaber story. They just have a 5-issue one-off on the lightsaber, and it's just like completely wordless and just panels, just images, just panels of the lightsaber's travels.
Do you remember how Force Awakens was originally supposed to open?
With the hand floating through space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
That
And-
was a legitimate thing in the script at some point.
Yeah. They thought about it.
I don't remember who quoted what that quote was from, but it was like maybe in Michael Arndt's script or something.
Maybe that's why he was let go.
Can you imagine how terrible that would have been?
I don't know if we actually talked about this on like one of our early episodes or if this was just us talking, but I envision it as the start of Men in Black, you know, when the fly is flying through all the vehicles and then eventually splats onto a car, onto a windshield. I just
Yeah.
picture like the hand like flying through space and like dodging ships and things and then like splatting onto like a big freighter and the driver's like, oh, and then it just cuts to
The
real
driver
movie.
is Maz and she reaches out and puts it.
Reaches out and grabs the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just how I picture that scene. Is the basically Men in Black intro with the bug, except for it's just a hand flying through space, bumping into cars and floating around.
Sure.
Sure, why not?
That works.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Are you having trouble tonight? Is this a bad night for you? Should we reschedule?
Always. Can we? Can we reschedule? Can we do this later?
All right, guys, we'll be back in.
This isn't working out for me.
In the time we need to think about our lives. So we've talked about this before. The Force, just in general, you know, we've talked about that.
Owen and Baru. No. Skipping way down in our notes.
Just skip everything. Go to the crap at the bottom. We mentioned before how like Dave Filoni had was talking about the Force and how he felt like, you know, he kind of explained the Midi-chlorians in a way that like everyone has, like anyone can go swimming and swim decently, but then there's like Michael Phelps who's like a swimming god,
Right.
and it doesn't make any sense how he can swim the way he can,
Right.
but he does, and he's no different from us other than he just has this natural ability.
Yeah.
And that I thought that was the best explanation of Midi-chlorians I'd ever heard before.
Yeah.
And it made sense to me. Obviously, lots of people still don't like it, but lots of people don't like a lot of things. And
Well, the fact that
screw them.
Midi-chlorians exist in everyone. Because
yes,
they're
that
they're
everyone
part
has
of life.
Midi-chlorians and everyone's connected to the Force
Yes.
in some form or another. Just some people have a natural Force ability or natural Force talent, like Anakin being able to fly pod racers when no other human can.
Right. Yes.
Well, no other known human on Tatooine can.
Yeah.
Well, Pablo Hidalgo, who is all things Star Wars, basically corroborated that story recently. He had a string of like 18 tweets slowly telling his thoughts on it, which I'd like to read because I think it's pretty interesting.
All of them?
I'll blast through it.
Right.
So
Well,
you're saying-
I'm gonna go.
All right, you go
Okay.
get that thing,
That thing.
the food on.
The thing
Sure.
I sent you.
So he was saying how like a colleague of his had recently stated that everyone has and uses the Force, which, you know, raises questions, and he says, you know, but nonetheless, it's true. You know, the Force is life, just like Yoda says, and this is me saying this, just like Yoda's like the Force moves through us, around us, it's and everything, whatever. So, you know, if you've ever felt a moment of connection with another or your world, you're using it. That's the idea. You can believe in it, but you can disbelieve in it, but you still have it. Like I'm sure old Ben would attribute Han's amazing piloting or luck to the Force. but Han wouldn't. Like for gamers, note that every incarnation of an RPG for Star Wars gave Force points to everyone, regardless of their Force sensitivity. So his example was, citing Bruce Lee. In our world, he would be someone more attuned to the Force than most, hence his remarkable abilities. It's not just physical abilities. Those who can sway large numbers of people for good or for bad are tapping into connectivity. I can see the case made that exceptional minds of all kinds, Einstein, Hawking, Newton, are tapping into a world most cannot see. I think people understandably got caught up in the whole midi-chlorian thing. They thought you must have X number of midi-chlorians to use the Force. But the midi-chlorian prerequisite was to enter the prequel era Jedi Order. It was a rather soulless way to look at potential by narrative design. That's kind of harsh on Lucas. The prequel Jedi have systemized their methods at the expense of spirituality and intuition. They are more order than Jedi. Characters like Jocasta Nu or Ki-Adi-Mundi were embodying that, but others like Dooku and Qui-Gon and Anakin don't. And there's more to the Force than just Jedi or Sith. There's more to potential than midi-chlorians, just like there's more to being a genius than there are grades. Which, of course, he goes, after a while, he's like, predictable misread of what I said before about Bruce Lee. Oh, no, so he didn't train and was just lucky to have this ability. The hell? Exceptional people work very hard to hone their talents they've been given. Don't think otherwise, it might make you look small. The gifts aren't free. They have to be worked at to be unlocked, and typically they end up with complicated lives.
Right, sure. So, going back to the soulless thing, that's...
The soullessness, like soulless...
A rather soulless way to look at potential, but that ties into what the Jedi Order was at that time.
They were dicks.
They were soulless.
Yeah.
And they were very disconnected and aloof from everything.
And this is a thing that Pablo had said once on a tweet, which I love, was like, the prequel Jedi literally lived in an ivory tower on Coruscant. Like, they literally had their giant phallic symbol in the middle of the city that they're better than everyone else.
Sure.
And they, obviously there was, like you got that from Mace Windu and some of the others where they're like, yeah, we're Jedi. We're better than all of you.
Right.
But then you don't have that from people like Obi-Wan or Yoda or, certain other people.
Have what? What do you mean?
That dickishness of, we're the Jedi peacekeepers of the galaxy and you will bow to our will and wishes as we see fit.
Yeah, dickishness in that kind of disconnected sort of way. Because then you've got like someone like Qui-Gon, on the other hand, who is kind of a dick.
Oh, Qui-Gon's a total dick.
Just like an asshole Jedi.
Yeah.
But at the same time, really empathetic and...
Yes. He was
to
more...
certain things, I guess.
But like he said, there's
He was
more...
empathetic
so
towards
there's
Anakin,
more people who are more order and people who are more like Jedi. Who like, like more like almost like some of the Jedi felt more like royalty and like, oh yes, we are our fancy robes and our ivory tower, we're better than you. But then you had people who like
Mace
we're more of a Jedi, like we have abilities, we should be helping people. I want to help this kid. I think he's going to be an amazing thing eventually.
Right.
He was wrong, and there's some of them do.
Well,
some of them
he
don't.
was right.
Well,
technically he was right. It was just about the wrong things.
Yeah, he was right about everything else that was not right. So it's just going back to what Filoni said, where it's, everyone has the Force. It's just some people are naturally attuned to it and have that ability.
Yeah.
But, others don't.
Right.
So some people, it's that important distinction of, so like Maz, she has some Force ability. She may not be able to pick up an X-Wing with her mind and pull it out of the mud or be able to do certain things like that, but she has this almost not mind reading, but she can feel or sense things from people.
She has a slightly stronger connection,
and then we have Chirrut coming up in Rogue One.
Another example of that.
Who is
I would categorize him as like another Maz.
Yeah, so he's blind, Force. But he can fight like a badass.
Yeah.
And sense what's going on, but
he's not a Jedi.
He's not a Jedi. He's not he's not super powerful like they are.
And he's not consciously using the Force, I would say.
Well, he believes in the Force.
But he's not consciously using it in a way that the Jedi or the Sith would.
No, because he hasn't unlocked it in that way.
Like they're bending the Force to their will, basically.
Kind of, yeah. Whereas he has this natural ability, and probably partially due to his, disability of being blind.
Yeah.
where he's kind of been able to tap into it in a way, and since he has he may have more midi-chlorians than most, but not an Anakin count
Sure.
of midi-chlorians.
Well, no one had
Obviously.
an Anakin count. But yeah, like the level of a Jedi and he doesn't have, the training that the Jedi get.
Yeah.
From a very young age. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting looking back at that because it's almost like George got that right. Because I never realized that. I never thought about the Jedi that way.
But here's the thing. Did George think it through this far?
I don't know. I mean, it all kind of fits. Because George was around for Clone Wars. George was around for, obviously, the prequels.
I don't know how much thought he put into it. I love the notion of, it was just the midi-chlorian count was just the Jedi's like bastardized way of like, you're good enough for us. Well, we can probably do something with you because you have this higher count.
Because if you think about all these conversations that Dave Filoni had with George while he was doing Clone Wars, all of these ideas came from George in a sense.
Some of them, a lot of them.
Like Dave would ask George questions and George would explain things. So that's a lot of this canon stuff that's in Clone Wars came from those conversations.
It's possible he thought it through that far. I have a hard time believing that sometimes.
Yeah, me too. I think the original trilogy George wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff.
No, he was just making a cool space film, and then he had to fill in like, oh crap, this is way bigger than it ever would have been.
I guess that goes back to our conversation last episode about how JJ and Lawrence Kasdan, I don't think they knew all of these plot points.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Snoke. I don't think they know.
Like they know the outcome they want from Snoke, but maybe they didn't fill in his backstory yet.
Sure. I think it's the same deal with George, which it's hard for me to admit that or accept that.
Accept George
actually getting something right.
What he was doing amongst the horror that is the prequels.
Yeah, but how could you not accept that,
And I think it was recently, this week or last week or this month or something, there were people on Twitter and online were doing like a prequel appreciation thing, like going back and rewatching them and stuff. And I rewatched them. I rewatched 1 and 2 with my 2-year-old son because he's just now getting into Star Wars and wanted
couldn't
to watch
make it to 3, huh?
3's a little dark for a 2-year-old.
Oh, for him. Okay.
At this point,
yeah,
I think.
I think 3 is
I want to
best.
get to 3 because I think 3 is the best of the prequels. But just going back and watching them, 1 and 2 are so rough. Yeah. 2 especially.
2 is terrible.
I mean, one, there's just so many unnecessary characters and unnecessary scenes that just weren't needed.
In 1 you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot of unnecessary stuff.
Oh, like anything with the Gungans?
Oh, yeah, sure. But 2, there's literally like half an hour long subplot of C-3PO wandering around a factory.
Yeah, completely CG 3PO.
Yeah. Not even that. Like my
CG
wife.
3PO.
My wife. CG 3PO.
That's what it is.
Thanks. So my wife, who doesn't even, she's not even seen all of the prequels.
Your what?
My wife. My wife. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you were asking for?
I regret it.
Okay. That's good. You
should have done that.
She hadn't seen all of the prequels, but she's seen the original trilogy. And we were watching episode 1. She was like, this isn't, horrible. But then she was watching episode 2 with us. She's like, why is every room they're in CG?
Yeah.
She's like, they're just sitting in a room talking. Why does that need to be CG?
Why?
I was like, now you understand. You get it. You finally understand our plight. And so it's like, okay, so
this wall with red wallpaper in the Senate has to be CG.
Because I have not, I'm not joking, this is probably the 3rd time I've ever watched Clone Wars. I've only watched Clone Wars once or twice before watching it with my 2-year-old.
Attack of the Clones or Clone Wars?
Oh, sorry, Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Because it's just so bad. So I was watching it, and I'm noticing things I'd never noticed before. Like, so once they bring the clone army and do all the things in the Geonosian thing, in the Geonosian arena, and then they fly out and start fighting again. Yeah. Like Mace Windu gets off of a ship. Yeah. And then he has a conversation with literally 3 CG clone troopers. Mm-hmm. He's just standing there having a conversation with clone troopers, giving them orders. Why could that not be 3 dudes in actual armor? I get the giant battle scenes and needing to have hundreds of clone troopers be CG.
Right.
But when one trooper walks up, talks to Mace, and walks away, why can't that one dude have actual armor on and be in the scene? Why did he need to be CG?
So was Mace just talking to?
So like they jumped off the dropship and like 3
outfit?
troopers got off with him and he like gave them orders. Then they walked off screen. They were literally there for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But they could have been real. There was no reason for them at all to have been CG.
Well, they had to step off that thing, right?
The CG ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Off the CG ship onto the CG floor, standing beside the CG robes of the CG.
Did
man.
Mace jump off of that ship? How did he get off of that?
I don't remember.
Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, I'm trying to think of.
I think he stepped off of whatever green screen box he was standing on.
I'm just trying to think of why.
But there were literally only 3
Why
troopers
was it
on
like
screen, not even any in the background. They talked to him, he gave him like a command, and then they like walked off screen, like just for not even a minute, but they were CG for no reason.
I don't understand.
Even like on the dropships when they're flying, and everyone like there's humans on that ship with them, but then there's just like CG troopers standing beside them. Like why can't?
Right. Why can't
It's
everybody
like the opening.
be
It's
real?
like the introduction to the First Order troopers in Force Awakens in that dropship. It's like showing that scene, but everything in it being CG.
Yes.
Why
was that necessary?
I mean, obviously there's 12 people there. God forbid we buy 12 suits of armor, but in Attack of the Clones there were 3 dudes.
What
in
think
a
about?
Ship. You could have just shared. You could have just moved around the 3 dudes in armor. You're not seeing their face. Why are they ever CG?
If it really was about money, I mean, how many thousands of dollars did it cost to do that scene?
Yeah.
In CG
Just
versus
CG. Buying some
some suits, pay
some plastic armor,
pay some prop shop, to make this stuff. Were there ever real clone trooper outfits in any of the movies?
So when I noticed that in episode 2, when I noticed that, wait, why is he just having a conversation with like 2 clone troopers?
Yeah.
I started paying attention and I never saw a real clone trooper after that. So I don't remember before that if there were. But they didn't really show the clones other than in wide shots with tons of them on Camino. So I don't think there was ever a legit clone trooper in episode 2 at least. Okay. Episode 3, probably, maybe.
Because there were real battle droids in episode 1.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure in the Trade Federation ship.
And that's the thing, the CG.
Yeah. Remember that shot where the dioxis gas, like the droids are walking through the dioxis.
Yeah,
it's dioxis, right? Dioxis,
sure.
not dioxin.
The
dioxis,
diuretic gas.
Sure. Yeah, right. Remember when the droids are walking through that? That was that was real droids. I remember seeing the making of.
Yeah.
For that. So you would think that there would be real.
It'd be easier to put some armor on a dude
that's actually a human.
Yeah.
You did real stormtroopers before. Why is it not possible to do that now?
It was just that point when he went so over the top with CG.
And I don't know why. Why?
No, because it wasn't as bad in episode 3. At least I don't remember.
Was he trying to prove a point that it was possible?
Maybe it was his like tests for something. I don't know. So, and that was the thing I noticed going from episode 1 to episode 2. I felt the CG in episode 2 looked so much worse than it did in episode 1. Like it was so much more noticeable.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what the disconnect was between there. I don't even know how we got to this topic.
I bet it's because they tried to make it more lifelike, and they went into the uncanny valley area of lifelike.
How you can make a helmeted dude in a suit of armor look
I'm mainly
uncanny.
talking about CG-3PO.
And his crazy antics through the factory.
Did he have rockets in that part? Or was it that was just R2?
C-3PO.
Right?
Why would C-3PO ever have rockets?
Well, they gave R2 rockets.
R2 has everything whenever he needs it. And his rockets were in episode 3.
He's just a friggin' Hogwarts droid.
He's got hidden rooms and...
Yes.
Yeah. His rockets were in episode 3. The C-3PO had his...
No, R2 had him in... He rescued 3PO, remember? He rocketed over to that assembly line. Don't you remember that?
Did he rocket over to the assembly line?
Yeah, because he shoved 3PO off the little bridge.
I don't know. I was probably just so pissed off that C-3PO that for like 15 minutes I was watching C-3PO stumble through a assembly line of droids and like getting his head knocked off while his body still walked around.
Yeah, like
while his head was still talking, acting completely.
Yeah, like how does that happen?
How
Number one, where is his power source for both? Does he have two separate power sources? One in the head, one in the head, and one in the body.
Yeah. I mean, he has to.
Where's the, like, friggin' computer parts?
So his
Where's
body,
the brain?
His body has a CPU that just controls itself willy-nilly, and his head has the talking parts that can still exist separate from his body.
And can think and reason and...
Yeah.
And
I mean,
all that
obviously in Cloud City, you know, Chewie's messing with C-3PO trying to get him back together, and his head turns on. He's like, no, I'm backwards. But he at least had his torso.
To his body.
He at least had his torso at that point.
Well, yeah, and when the Tusken Raider attacked him or shoved him off the cliff,
yeah,
you know, it was just half of him then, wasn't it?
Nothing in episode 2 makes sense.
Actually, no, it wasn't just half of him. They just did the wipe. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
I remember what it was. It's because when they filmed that, Anthony Daniels was only in that half of the costume. So they did the wipe.
So you couldn't see it.
To hide the rest of his body. That's what it was.
That's awesome. Yeah, episode 2, the movie where there's about half an hour on C-3PO bumbling around, and the movie closes on a secret wedding. There's also a picnic scene.
Yes, with Anakin and Padme. I remember that.
They ride the giant...
in that field with the big turd monsters.
They look like giant ticks. I used to know what they were called. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are now.
They're just giant poop monsters with those disgusting little tails. The little nub tails. Oh,
little poo tails.
Looks terrible.
So we were talking about the Jedi being dicks, and then we got to clone troopers and to poo monsters or whatever.
Clone troopers and poo monsters.
Hand in hand.
That's the title.
So yes, the Jedi are dicks, and in the prequels they were high and mighty. And I enjoy the Force explanation of Midi-chlorians. The end of that segment.
The end.
Wrapping it up with a bow.
Now to Owen and Beru.
So I was, as I mentioned, I was watching the prequels and going through episode 1 and episode 2, and it dawned on me that Owen and Beru owned C-3PO in episode 2, and then they bought him again in episode 4.
Yeah.
Do they not remember the most annoying droid in the galaxy at all? Like, oh shit, it's him. Don't buy him. No, Luke, over here. Oh, there's good motivators. I don't... How would you forget C-3PO?
I was trying to play devil's advocate when we were talking about this.
I don't think there's any explaining this away.
Well, think about it. All Owen was thinking about was his stupid evaporators and trying to fix them and get through the season. And it's been how many years? 20 years?
At least 20 to 25 years, sure.
So he's probably seen so many of that kind of droid.
So that brought back up the question of droid names. Are they individual to the droid, or are they just like, is there just a general C-3PO?
What? General
so
C-3PO?
Remember we were not like Admiral C-3PO. So remember we were talking about droid names and how people were like, oh, that R2 unit isn't an R2 unit or whatever.
Right.
The new R4 dick, whatever.
R4 dick
people were complaining about him. No, it's an R2 unit. You can't call it an R4 or whatever it is. And so that brought up like, what is the naming convention of droids? And there really is nothing canon to solidify what droids are and how they're named. Even Pablo was just like, whatever.
I don't agree with that necessarily, because people talk about R2 units in the movies.
Like, they do. But the droid that looks like an R2
like in
unit,
A New Hope, when Luke is getting into his X-Wing and the guy is like, hey, your R2 unit looks kind of busted. You want us to get you a new one?
So you should be able to recognize an R2 unit from the outside, from what it looks like from its chassis.
Yes.
So why is the new droid that they announced not an R2 unit? Why is he not an R2?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand.
That's what everyone was flipping out about. So if there are, So maybe there's C3 units. So is the D2 or the PO, whatever, or he's just C3PO.
See, I don't,
so is there just,
I don't
he's
know
just
about
a C
that
unit?
though, because C-3PO was built from scratch.
Right.
He was built as a protocol droid, but he was built.
I mean, he had his chassis was all from other droids. It existed from other droids because Anakin didn't make that. That was pulled from other droids.
No, and maybe Anakin
even
was
like
copying
the silver one you see in at the beginning of episode 4.
Right,
there's
right.
other. I don't know if that's a C or a C3PO or whatever the hell, but especially the fact that C3PO.
Wait, the silver one in episode 4.
Yeah, on the Tantive at the very beginning, walking across the hallway.
Oh yeah. There's C-3PO, yeah, and then there's another.
Or even the silver one on Bespin.
Right.
Who looked like they have the same body type.
Yeah.
But again, C-3PO was built from scratch. All of their, I mean, maybe his voice maybe sound the same as another one we haven't heard. Any other droids.
I mean, maybe Anakin copied.
It was probably a voice
Another
modulator or a
protocol
voice
droid.
piece from another droid. But
Yeah.
so that, how unique are those identifiers? If he was, flipped on in episode 1, he's like, oh, I'm C-3PO, wibbly wobbly, the scarecrow scene from Wizard of Oz. Yeah, basically. So
That translates really well.
yeah, the body movements really work great for this audio format.
It says wobbly elbows. Just think about wobbly elbows and like your knees shaking at the same time.
Sure,
That kind of conjures the right image, right?
I hope. So
Think about if a dude tied 2 broomsticks to your elbows and your knees, and then just went like that.
then he
just shove
waggled
it around.
them all fiercely,
Yes.
waggling broomsticks.
And then imagine all the ends of the other ends of the broomsticks were rubber banded together. And then someone just had like a thing. It was just like spinning it.
Someone's churning you like butter.
Yeah.
From the back.
Yeah, but it's like.
I think that's a different thing entirely.
Oh, you're thinking about something else.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just thinking about they just spin it around. A little, just waggle it. And it
no.
kind of would waggle all your bits at the same time. All your corners.
I have never paid for that,
Okay.
but I'm sure it's great.
You've seen it though, right?
Probably.
Okay, I just that's just trying to conjure the right image here.
Conjure part waggling.
Yeah,
That should inform your thoughts during this next
just
discussion.
vibrating corners.
Jeez. Yeah. Anyways, droid names. How specific are they to the droid? Are they per droid or are they by like general? Like, so is there other C-3POs? Other
I don't know
R2-D2s, or
about-
is just R2 the unit type and then D2 is based off of like a motherboard or a serial number type thing?
I think R2 could be a similar, model.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that about C-3PO units. I think C-3PO is just a designator that Anakin gave him.
So if there is no other droid with that designator,
I
how the
assume so.
hell would Owen not remember that?
But there are other droids with the same chassis type.
Yeah, but
His chassis
Owen walks
type.
up and he's like, "Oh, I'm C-3PO, human cyborg relations," and then like,
That is
Owen
the only
would've been
thing
like,
that I can't.
no,
Wait a
back
second.
into the back in the line. You stay.
That's the part that I can't figure out. Like,
If-
he would totally remember that
If
name,
Anakin
right?
named him that, based off of nothing else,
Yeah,
and it's just something that Anakin came up with,
yeah.
because I don't know how popular that designation would be, or if it is popular or similar to any other droid.
Yeah.
If that is unique to C-3PO, how would Owen not realize that in episode 4? And he was like, not that one. Nope.
Well-
He's so protective of Luke and like always aware that Obi-Wan is nearby and always aware of avoiding stories about his father and all of that. And Anakin showed up to his house, killed a bunch of sand troopers, brought his dead mother back to his house,
And left
his
there.
dead mother, and took 3PO with him. I think that would be stuck in your brain for the rest of your life.
No, wait a second. What? 3PO goes with R2 in episode 1. Right? Doesn't he?
No?
What am I've got this all
Anakin
mixed
does
up
not
then.
get 3PO back until episode 2 when he visits home on Tatooine, and C-3PO is there with Owen and Beru and Lars. And then he brings him back, then he takes him back, he just like steals their droid and brings him back with him.
That's right. For some reason I thought that.
So first off, Anakin
was
stole his
3PO.
droid back from these people who probably needed it for their livelihood.
Well,
to communicate with the evaporators.
okay, so in episode 1, Anakin says, I'm leaving 3PO with Shmi to
Sure.
help her.
Whatever.
Something
Yeah.
like that, right? So Shmi has 3PO this whole time. I assume that she meets
Well, she's sold to Lars. Lars buys her and frees her.
after Watto.
Yes, Lars buys her from Watto and frees her to marry her, because that's not weird. None of that situation's odd. And he gets the most annoying droid in the galaxy by default.
Yes.
And obviously, I mean, it could have been a handful of years, whatever. You would remember C-3PO being the most horrible thing you've ever spoken
Did
to.
Shmi gold plate him or put the whatever plates he had on then?
No, he was still like a dirty
like a
silver.
dirty
He was
silver,
still
yeah.
like dirty, whatever. And
But did Shmi do that or did Watto/Lars do that?
who knows?
Because that would make a difference, I think. Because if Lars did it, then yeah, Owen has no reason to know.
But I mean, Lars is like he's wheelchair bound, and Owen's helping him with everything, I'm sure. So he's been around C-3PO for God knows how long.
That's what I'm saying, though. If Lars had to interact with this droid, then there's no reason Owen wouldn't
Maybe.
remember.
But
him.
would you not remember the droid that some dude randomly showed up, killed a bunch of sand troopers, dropped his dead
then-
mother on your doorstep, then took his droid and left?
But then you have the argument: the guy who built C-3PO didn't recognize him. You know? Did he ever come into contact with the droids again? He probably saw them, didn't he?
I mean, but at that point, does he care? Does he have any heart to like? Oh, it's my little guy.
Did he ever?
Come to Papa.
Was
I
that
don't-
ever in
I
the
don't-
comics?
What, the droid? Him running into the droids?
Yeah. Because there was that time on Empire where the stormtrooper blasts C-3PO, right?
Yeah.
And Vader's there. Did Vader ever see 3PO?
Eh.
Get it?
You
You
said
you
it.
see what I did there?
I have no idea.
CG-3PO!
No, R2D too soon. I don't know.
What have we become? What is this?
Yeah, this is
What
our
are we
madness.
doing?
I just can't explain away the fact that Owen does not recognize C-3PO by either his designation or his general annoyingness
Yeah.
when he buys him again in A New Hope, when he was taken away, 20 whatever years beforehand.
Right.
If that name is unique, I can't explain that. But but it started off with just the interesting fact of, hey, wait a minute, they've owned him twice. The Jawas totally ripped them off, and not even knew it. They're just by default. I mean, good for the Jawas. But then, yeah, it got into the whole thing of, wait, so how unique are the names? And how would he not remember 3PO at all? I can't explain that away.
So
Easily.
I was saying one of my arguments before when we were talking about this was that Luke, when the R5 unit, or what we've thought were R5 units up until now, when he blows up, when his motivator blows up, doesn't Luke
Got
say,
a bad motivator. Yeah, that guy.
does he say this one has a bad motivator, or does he say this R2 unit has a bad motivator?
Oh yeah, I think he calls it an R2 unit.
Yeah. So,
Well, again,
That goes
that was
against-
the first movie, and George didn't know what the hell was happening.
but the same movie, the other dude loading
Oh,
R2
your
into
R2
the
unit.
X-Wing. Yeah. And it's a completely different model.
George is like, hey, anything that looks like a trash can, R2 unit. Trash can, R2 unit. Well, this is the only C-3PO. None of the other ones are referenced. To just call it an R2 unit. Looks
I
like a trash can,
guess.
R2 unit.
But then you brought up the point that Luke is just some farm dude, so maybe he doesn't know.
Hey, Papa, this R2 unit's
Yeah.
got a bad motivator. It's like, this hick. Yes, this R5 does have a bad
It's like calling your
motivator.
phone a computer. Hey,
Yeah.
look at this here computer. This touchable computer. I could play Snake all day.
I think it's more like if someone just only ever knew an Apple computer and just called like any computer a Mac, or like calling tissues in general Kleenex, like those
Sure.
people.
Yeah, I could see
Like
that.
when you're like we live in Florida, like old people just they call everything a Kleenex.
Yeah.
Kleenex is a name brand. Tissue is the actual product.
Right.
Just like Band-Aid is a name brand, but a adhesive bandage is the actual product.
Yeah, or Advil.
Maybe
Every
the company that
headache
makes
pill is
R2
an
units
Advil.
is just so, it's like the Coke. It's like the Kleenex. They just make so many R2 units. Just everything now is called an R2 unit by default.
Maybe.
So I'm buying like Publix brand tissues, but I'm still calling them Kleenex.
Or
So I
when
just bought the
smartphones-
off-brand. I bought the off-brand R5, R5D4, but I'm just gonna call it an R2 unit because I mean, whatever.
Or when smartphones were still around, or when first coming around, everyone called them Palm Pilots. Remember that?
Yes.
It was
Or
everything.
people
was
who still call any Android phone a droid, just because the original droid was marketed so heavily.
right.
That still pisses me off. Yeah.
Technically,
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're just farm people and they don't know better.
It's true. It's
So
probably true.
screw you, farm people.
I would be more inclined to believe the tech loading the droids into the starfighter.
Would understand what an R2 unit
Yeah.
is. Well, maybe he actually knows, and by default, Luke just got that one right. Like,
Maybe.
yeah, it is an R2 unit.
Oh, just look at that.
Look at there.
This is a Palm Pilot. Probably.
Yeah. Good. That's my rant of the week.
Wonderful.
Apparently, I'm gonna have those now.
Not as great as the Death Star, but
Well, that's don't
it's
even.
a good point. I've never thought about it before.
They owned him twice. How would you forget C-3PO?
Yeah. It's a good point.
But I mean, I guess they never.
You did good.
Thank you.
You did good.
I mean, he paid for 3PO and like introduced himself, which you would think that would be enough. But after that, he just like pawned him off on Luke and was like, "Here, just go clean him up and do your chores, you shithead."
Yeah.
Then he went back to his lazy boy with his blue milk.
Do lazy boys exist
So
on Tatooine?
sure, I would assume if Lars can have a wheelchair, then Owen can have a lazy boy. Since apparently in Rogue One, there's Saul who has like
Is it
robot
still called
legs.
a wheelchair? Because there weren't any wheels, were there? Wasn't it just a floaty chair?
A hover. It's a hover round. It's literally a hover round like the actual product.
That has more right to be called a hover round than hover rounds do.
This is true. We should. George Lucas should start up some litigation there. I'm pretty sure he's got a case.
Sure.
For the extra money he needs.
So where can people find us on the internet, Tyler?
Before we get to that, Michael.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to mention. There was
We
a
gotta
submission.
wrap this shit up.
There was a submission to Lobot.
Let's do that another time.
No, a Twitter user, Keenan Turner, Turnier. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Sorry, Keenan. Was asking about the Darksaber and if it's ever been.
Keenan Turnier.
He was asking about the Darksaber and if it's ever been talked about outside of the Clone Wars, and he was disappointed in how little information there is on on it, seeing as it's an officially canon saber.
Yeah.
No, there's been nothing else. It's not been in anything but Clone Wars, but there was a shot in the trailer for Clone Wars Season 3 that had
Sabine.
Sabine. Yes, holding the Darksaber. So it's coming back.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're going to get any backstory on it, but
Well, I put some backstory in here.
I mean, yeah. All we know is that Pre Vizsla stole it from a Jedi temple.
No, false.
Yes.
No.
Well, it was Clan Vizsla. Sorry,
Yeah. It was House Vizsla. So the Jedi Order, someone in the Jedi Order
had it.
during the Old Republic time period built it and started out there. The Mandalorians, after the fall of the Old Republic, the Mandalorians stole it, specifically Clan Vizsla.
Yeah.
They stole it.
And Pre
it was just
Vizsla being
passed
the
down.
head of Clan Vizsla now
It was passed
has
down
it.
to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now that he's the head, he has the Darksaber, but we don't know why it was built or why it was kept in the Jedi temple.
Yeah.
It was almost like it almost sounds like the fact that it was stolen from a temple almost sounds like it was like on display or like a relic.
Stolen from the temple?
The fact that they would have to steal it from a temple and not like kill a Jedi to take it, like it was
Well,
almost like a
we don't
relic
know
or
that.
an item. Obviously,
know
we don't.
that.
They didn't fill in anything with that. All we know is it was built and exists in a Jedi temple and was stolen by the Mandalorian Clan Vizsla.
Yeah.
Other than that, we don't know why it exists at all.
Right. Or what it's made of or
Yeah.
or anything like
So
that.
it's coming back, but we have no idea why. Or there may not be any more backstory. It may just be coming back some more.
Right. And the only reason Sabine has it is because she was
Mandalorian.
revealed to be a descendant of Clan Vizsla.
We don't know. But
An
last time we
ancestor.
saw it, Darth Maul was fighting with it, right?
Yep.
So
he
why
had
does
it
she
for a
have it?
while.
So why is she gonna have it at all?
He lost it in a fight with Sidious at some point in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So we
towards the
don't
end
know.
of the Clone Wars.
So who knows where it is or how she ends up with it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know what happens to it after that. I assume
it's a good point though. I never really put
Some-
too much thought into it.
some Mandalorian picks it up, I guess.
It would be nice to at least understand like why it exists
Yeah.
because it's super cool. I don't know what its purpose is other
Right.
than just being super cool and looking like a space pirates.
Filoni ever
lightsaber.
talk about it?
Not that I remember.
I could have sworn he mentioned it at some point. I should look that up.
Who knows? All right.
But yeah, we don't really have.
That's it. I mean,
Any
that's all
more
that
information
exists
on it?
about it, really.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get more with Rebel Season 3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Where can we find us? Where can we find us on the internet, Tyler?
You can find all of our episodes at HokeyReligion.com. You can send your questions, comments, and deepest wishes to AskLobot at HokeyReligion.com. You can find us on Twitter at Hokey_religion, because the guy at Hokey Religion won't accept my request to follow him so that I can ask for us to have his tag.
You just DM him. I'm going to do it right now.
You can find, we have a Facebook page. You can like us there as well. And if you enjoy our show and feel like supporting us in any way, you can go to patreon.com/HokeyReligion.
I'd like to say, please tweet the owner of Hokey Religion and
Everyone following us, well, they are private. You have to follow him and get him to accept your follow so you can tweet to him.
this dude has 13 followers. He doesn't need to be on Twitter.
Right? Yeah.
He only follows nine people. So.
I've considered emailing Twitter, but I think we need more followers to be able to convince Twitter to let me have someone else's handle. So everyone get all of your friends to follow us so we can steal someone's handle and their
Yes, please.
online presence. That would be great.
It's for your good, because it's easier
for
to remember.
your good, so that our name is easier to say when we record.
Well, yeah, you don't have to remember that stupid underscore.
Who wants those anyways?
We could do like a MySpace thing where it's like asterisks or something like that,
Gosh.
right?
Yeah, well, sure.
Asterisk, Hokey Religion, asterisk,
No, please.
3.
This isn't a gamer tag from like Battlefield.
for Call of Duty.
Yeah, or COD, either one, whatever. They're all dicks. Anyways, this is Tyler.
This is Michael.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Hokey religion is an ancient weapon. Hokey religion is an ancient weapon. There's no match for a good blaster at your side.
There is nothing except for the tampons, and that's not going in.